everybody. I try to share my presentation. Okay. The gregary sense of movement through the territory was signed the evolution of our species and human society since its origins. The advent of agriculture allows sedentarization and the consequent spatial segregation that marked the birth of urban processes, together with the struggle for territorial appropriation and cultural imbrication. Centuries afterwards, agricultural system focused on the product and not on food, on the market and not on health. And this is one of the main causes for global warming and climate change effects at critical levels, threatening even food security and the existence of our own species on the planet. We are witnessing the largest movement of people in history. Migration has become a global phenomenon which increases constantly and progressively worldwide, resulting in displacement corridors and the proliferation of temporary and permanent settlements with high concentrations of overcrowding population. In December 2000, the United Nations created a National Migrant Day in an attempt to raise awareness about the right to mobility for human beings. However, that right and phenomena are as old as we are. Currently, migration is a term that generates a great controversy, which is much due to the lack of information and understanding. Perhaps the greatest difficulty in understanding migration is its extreme diversity in regard to forms, types, processes, actors, motivation, as well as the diversity of socioeconomic and cultural contexts it covers. Also, the difficulties to measure, forecast, and interpreting its effects. Here we can see migration facts. World migrants are more than 280 all over the world. 1 in every 30 people is a migrant. 48% to 50% are women or girls. 50 million are children. The number of deaths due to dangerous journeys is 60,000 or was 60,000 from 2015 onwards. Precariousness of health, lack of water and food sources, discrimination, death risk, human trafficking risk, deportation risk, increasing vulnerability, physical and psychosocial illness, and religious and cultural diversity seen as threat could be some of the minuses we can find here. But also, migration can benefit us all, and migrants are ordinary people like all human beings. Migrants are entitled to the same fundamental rights no matter where they are or why they are there. And the diversity of ethnicities, religions, and cultures should be seen as an asset. There is a global concern to save the lives of displaced people, protect their rights, and share the responsibilities regarding this phenomenon. If we look at human migration, and would like to see some of the causes and types of movement, we can see regarding causes, socioeconomic, political, ecological, and the war, and regarding the type of movements, according to geographical scale, due to origin and destination, by degree of freedom, and according to time and period. Regarding the socioeconomic issues, unemployment, segregation, and economic crisis are amongst them. Political, persecutions, revenge, intolerance, and despotism. Ecological, natural disasters, extreme events, drought, floods, and fires. War is the flight of the people from active war conflicts. In regard to movements, the geographical scale could be local, bilateral, international, or transcontinental. Due to origin and destination, it depends on the country of origin and the alternative countries for destination. By degree of freedom, could be free, voluntary, or forced, and according to time, could be permanent, transitory, seasonal, or pendular. We are now going to look at migration, some migration figures. Here we see the population increasing at world level where the dark blue is Asia and the light blue is Africa, telling us that by 2050 and onwards, the highest populated regions in the world are going to be South Africa and South Asia, and this is where the rates are increasing. As an example of how migration moves, I took this case of Mexico recently, where the light blue is an average migration movement. The red line are men and the light green women. In regard to the comparison between displaced people and birth, the blue columns are the displaced movements, the displaced population, and the gray ones are the new births, where we see how they are coming, say, by 2023, we are equaling the rate of newborns with the rate of people displaced. And this is another example as to having figures how migration moved to one of the, say, highest receiving countries in the world, which is the United States. And then we can see the flow of how the migration figures moved. In regard to other issues, we've got that globally 280 million are migrants in the world by 2020. 32 to 50% of them are girls or women. 30% of them are below 18 years old, and 11% are between 15 and 24. More than 150,000 of these migrants were victims from trafficking. And by 2023, about 360 were refugees, and 60.1 of them were the ones seeking asylum. 59,000 refugees were resettled in their first half of 2023. And by 2022, an estimated 21.1 million people remain displaced within the borders of their own countries. Disasters caused 53% of the estimated 60 million internal displacements. In regard to migration flows, we can see here the maps of attracting countries and the countries that expel migrants. And then the size of the dots shows us the amount of people that move from each place to the attracting one. Here we see the same in regard, for instance, to Brazil in the Americas, the United States also in the Americas, Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. Here is a general migration flow as how what are the attracting main countries, which are the dark blue ones, and which are the expelling ones, which are the green ones. And here we see how the migration flows are movement at the moment. Migration flows and corridors, spontaneous temporary informal settlements, and the redefinition of the formal ones boost the new territorial configuration at the level of urban, rural, and intermediate areas and their interfaces, modifying our physical and mental maps. The pressure on border stripes and land use change caused by different migration types, together with the resettlements of the incoming population, have deep implications on the landscapes and points out the need for further research and better data in order to understand as well as lead existing trends. Presently, migration will continue to be a paramount influence, shaping the territory, pointing out the need of major landscape architecture professional involvement, and policies which disregard the importance and potential of landscape management and its holistic vision, considering migration and space issues as separate matters, are doomed to failure. Due to our interdisciplinary visions, we landscape architects are uniquely qualified to contribute to large-scale landscape planning and multifunctional landscape design, together with food production, food security, and sovereignty, as well as the pursuit of territorial justice. Demands arising from the global political agenda in the face of the effects of urban growth, climate change, food insecurity, loss of biodiversity, migration, and the war underline the relevance of the bond between agriculture and landscape architecture. not only because of the shared concern with food production and distribution, but also because of its impact on human activity, as well as on the environment and civil society. Moving from refugee camps to refugee farms, landscape architecture might provide solutions capable to transform them into permanent communes with capacity of providing goods and resources for the subsistence, promote adaptability and resilience, as well as strengthening identity and social integration. To address these issues, we propose to explore and discuss the potential role of planning and design of productive landscapes in settlements and/or migrant farms or camps, as to provide solutions capable to transform them into permanent communes with the capacity of providing goods and resources for the subsistence to promote adaptability and resilience, as well as strengthening identity and social integration. To apprehend the concept of landscape, we must understand it from multiple perspectives. Likewise, to unravel the relationship between landscape and migration, we have to look through different readings. While sedentarization marked the end of nomadism, were the origin of our civilization, contemporary migrations are an unequivocal feature of the most critical movement regarding our species' life on the planet. Climate change, our current mode of production and circulation of food, ethnic struggles, unequal society, and the war triggered the displacement of population globally. In this way, such population exposed to serious risk and misfortune. The phenomenon is increasingly spreading worldwide, calling for an effort to a deeper understanding and a plea to face the unavoidable need to find practical solutions of immediate applications.
Please join our working group and IFLA in this initiative.